The Army, it teaches you a lot of entrepreneurial and life skills, not just dentistry, but anyone that's been through knows that resiliency is something that's constantly hounded and trained. And in a dental practice, you run the day or the day runs you.
Welcome to the Path to Owning It podcast by Provide, hosted by me, Corey Brown, a marketing leader at Provide with over a decade in supporting small businesses. Whether you're an aspiring or established founder, here you'll find tools and advice to start building your legacy and take your business to new heights. To help you achieve your entrepreneurial ambitions, each month we'll tap into our unparalleled network of industry experts who will join us on our quest to provide the answers to your most pressing questions. Like what you hear? Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen. Today, we're hearing from Provide Advisory Network member, Dr. Benjamin Taylor. Dr. Taylor is a general dentist and owner of Dunwoody Dental Care for 2 years. He has practiced dentistry since 2013 and graduated from the Medical College of Georgia School of Dentistry. Dr. Taylor served 5 years of active duty in the Army and 6 with the National Guard, including serving as a combat dentist in Iraq in 2020. He is the husband of an amazing physical therapist and pet dad to French Bulldog and Orange Tabby Cat. Dr. Taylor is a lover of all things restaurant related, especially the food. Same for me, Dr. Taylor. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Corey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome back. What's your favorite cuisine if you're going out?
You know, I think if I ever had the chance to go to Japan, I'd probably never come back. Love some sushi.
That's a great choice. Mine would be close. I have Korean food fan over here. I like the spice. So
good stuff.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Taylor, welcome back. As people might remember from our previous episode, you've had quite an impressive journey from serving in the military to becoming a general dentist and business owner. Can you just share more of your story and what ultimately brought you to becoming a dental practice owner?
Yeah, it's been a great ride. I guess to start from the very beginning, it probably started with my family. My grandfather was a general dentist and my uncle is a general dentist. So I knew pretty early on it was a profession that I felt like would fit my personality, but definitely gave it an honest vetting. But that's where it started. The Army was never really a thing that was my identity from the beginning. Kind of started out, didn't really have a way financially to pay for school. And so that's how it started. But I don't think I'd do it any other way. I did the scholarship through the Army. So like you said, about 5 years active duty and then National Guard, did a 1-year residency right out of dental school. Like I said, wouldn't do it any other way.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And seeing as at the time of this recording, Veterans Day is right around the corner. So I'd be remiss to not thank you for your service. Serving as a combat dentist in Iraq must have presented unique challenges, I can only imagine. Can you share a specific experience where you had to think on your feet to solve a problem?
Yeah, there were definitely many. And for full disclosure, combat dentist is definitely a self-imposed title to kind of stroke the ego a little bit. I didn't see any bloodshed other than, I guess, my patient's gums. So we'll just set the record straight there. But no, it was definitely about as an adrenaline rush, I think, as dentistry, can be. So I was in the middle of Iraq for about 3 months, away from home for about 4. And there's lots of places you can go, but I was in the middle of Iraq and about as far forward in the combat zone as a dentist can be. I was the only dentist on a base of about 5,000 U.S. and international troops. So the biggest problem there is you're the only dentist there. And so if something comes up that you can't handle, there's a lot of weight on your shoulders because it's about a $50,000 taxpayer-funded flight to Germany to fix something. But if you can think of trying to do dentistry while camping in the woods, that's kind of what it comes down to. I mean, you're pretty much just MacGyvering teeth together, just like gluing this and gluing that. And so a lot of dental school rules kind of get, thrown out the window. So you definitely have to be creative. But I mean, you do whatever you can to make it happen. And you'd be surprised when you have no other options, you get pretty creative.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. How did that time in the military influence your approach to problem solving in both your personal and professional lives?
Yeah, I mean, the Army, it teaches you a lot of entrepreneurial and life skills, and there's a few that are foundational in the Army, and not just dentistry, but anyone that's been through knows that resiliency is something that's constantly hounded and trained. And yet that is essentially, the ability to bounce back. The Army is always about forward movement. And, you got to take one day at a time, but also keep your head on the horizon. in an associateship, there's not really as many things coming at you as it does in ownership. And so that resilience really gets tested because there's so many things that you're in control of and things that flow down to you. So, some of those punches are glancing blows, but you always have to keep moving forward. I think the other big two are leadership and flexibility. One of the hardest things in a dental practice is learning to run your team, and you are essentially that leader there. And one thing the military does is it kind of gives you a dry run on that, where on someone else's dime, you can kind of pretend to be the leader that you think is efficient. And it is a way that you can test that out with a team. And so obviously in the military, there's always rank above and below you, and there's always a push and pull, but that is a good way to kind of flex your muscles on what you think is a good leader. But also flexibility. The military is always a changing environment, and you have to adjust to that different climate. So in a dental practice, you run the day or the day runs you. There are things that are going to come at you during the day, and you can let it take you down or you can keep going.
Always moving forward, like you said, right?
That's right.
And, I'm just curious, are there any problem-solving frameworks or strategies that you adopted from your military experience that help guide your decision-making process as the leader of your practice today?
Yeah, I would say going from associate or military service to an owner is a leap in a lot of ways. And I think leadership, risk, and liability are some of the ones that you feel most. But problems or tasks or duties in the day is one of the biggest weights that I think a lot of people feel. And one of the things that can keep associates forever. As an owner, you definitely have to stay organized. You got to have your to-do list, because the biggest thing is if you don't stay organized, you will definitely feel it take over your free time. So my method is I keep a little running sticky note in my office of all the things that I have to do that are not dental related. And I think one thing I've felt is, there's some days I feel like I'm, running a business and doing dentistry on the side.
Yeah.
But, those problems, they'll never stop coming. But if you get your system set up and learn how to delegate, then it can be a whole lot more manageable.
Yeah. And how did you learn how to delegate? Is that something that you learned? Well, I'd imagine not in the military since you were the only dentist there, but as a practice owner, is that something that just kind of comes with the territory that you pick up, or where did that come from for you?
Yeah, everyone, I think, has their own comfort level of what they can delegate. And, there are definitely providers out there that don't. And I think for me, it just eventually gets to a point where it comes out of necessity, and you have to trust your team. You can't trust your team unless you've trained them well. And I feel like gotten to a point to where I do see my team as an extension of myself. And once you have that trust, then it's very rewarding to see someone perform on their own with very little guidance from you. And ultimately, it just comes down to you have so much bandwidth and you can't do everything yourself. And in the military, there are, each person has their own role and you learn who can do what.
And last question about your military service. Are there any key lessons that you've learned from that or from being a practice owner that you think every entrepreneur should adopt, especially in the healthcare field?
Yeah, I mean, a mission in the military has a couple distinct phases. There's planning and then training and execution. And I think one thing that I could not imagine practicing dentistry without is a morning huddle. This is basically just a forum in the morning that allows all your team members, you come together. I know a lot of people do this, but it takes away anything that comes up when the day is hectic to discuss the plan. And, without that stressful day, cooler heads prevail. And my method that I have is, problems come up during the day and I'll simply just make a note of it. And then you'd be amazed what going home at night and sleeping on it will do to yourself. And the next day, then it becomes a topic where you can discuss it much more efficiently. Football team wouldn't perform well without huddling. And I see that the same thing as a dental practice.
Yeah, that's great advice. We've discussed how Dr. Taylor's military service has shaped him into the practice owner he is today, but when we return, I'd like to discuss how you tackle problem-solving needs within your practice. We'll be back with more right after this. Ready to take your practice to the next level? Meet the Provide Card, the credit card built specifically for healthcare practice owners. Available in addition to your Provide practice loan, with the Provide Card, you'll be transported to a world of new opportunities for your practice, where you can access the spending power you need to build your legacy. You can earn rewards on all purchases, all the time, with no rotating categories and no point expiration. At Provide, we're creating the future of personalized banking for healthcare practice owners. To learn how to apply for the card that makes your purchases go the extra mile, contact your Provide representative or visit getprovide.com/providecard for more information, including rewards terms and conditions. I'm Corey Brown, and this is Provide's The Path to Owning It podcast. We're back with Provide Advisory Network member, Dr. Benjamin Taylor, to hear more about his approach to problem solving in his practice. Dr. Taylor, how do you apply your problem solving skills you've mentioned before to patient care and managing complex dental cases at Dunwoody Dental Care?
I think that's mostly related to your professional training and philosophy. So, your dental school and how you were taught. And every provider obviously has their own opinions that are foundational, but I think this is where a residency really comes in and can be helpful for owners. I don't know that I would have done it any other way. The residency pretty much gives you more opinions, more repetitions. And in dental school, you were pretty much taught one way to do one thing. And that residency will open up your eyes to a lot of things. And that was probably one of the more foundational Army things for me I think is invaluable.
Yeah. There's a lot of doctors that choose not to do a residency. Why do you think that is? Are they just done with school-related items, or are they just ready to start working? What do you think?
Yeah, if you're going 8 years straight through, I definitely was burnt out. I think it really comes down to, in reality, you really don't have to, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. But if you have the ability, then it can make you much more well-rounded and efficient that first year right out of school.
Yeah. And, as you've mentioned, entrepreneurship often requires adapting to unexpected challenges. Can you share a time during your first 2 years of practice ownership when you faced an unexpected hurdle and how you navigated it?
I still have PTSD from staffing issues. I think that's probably the number one thing, especially after COVID, that just was on another level. So we were middle of 2022 when I took over, and here's the reality is that dentistry is a team sport, and you can't do everything yourself. It was a big shock to me, and maybe I was being naive, but I felt like a lot of the other offices, we had a great culture and environment, and I felt like everyone enjoyed working with me. So, to take over an office and then to have turnover was really a kind of hard to swallow. Even if you come in neutral and you have the foresight of, all right, I'm just not going to ruffle any feathers. The current staff, if you're doing a transition, is there because they like the current situation, So that was huge. And there's nothing more stressful than, trying to keep a business running with the bills coming in and patients that want to come see you, but not the hands to do it. That's really stressful. And it was a hard thing to navigate, but ultimately, I feel like I created a team that I love, and they are now, like I said, extensions of me, and I treat them well. I try and create a fun environment, and ultimately you're going to build that team that's yours. You just sometimes have to go through some growing pains to do that, but that was definitely a little unexpected.
Yeah, I can imagine. How did you ultimately find your missing team members? Is that something that, because of the culture you created, the existing employees brought in friends and family members of their own, or how did you go about it?
Well, it was staffing services were huge. I know they did really well post-COVID, and for a reason, and I'm very thankful for them, but you weed through a lot of candidates, but temping services, all the staffing services kept us afloat. And then eventually you find someone that you just click with. And so that's what we did. But in that short term, it was touch and go.
Yeah, I bet. I found this quote from Brené Brown. She says, "There is no innovation and creativity without failure, period." So I'm curious, how do you see problem solving contributing to innovation in the dental field?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, dentistry's been around a long time, and it's constantly evolving and responding to our culture like anything else. With any pressures or failures going on at that level, then I think we have to respond as a whole.
Yeah. Can you share an example of how you've implemented innovative solutions within your practice?
I don't really think I've done too much to invent the wheel at our office. My philosophy has always just been to give 100% effort every day. I still believe, luckily, in the business of dentistry, if you're good at what you do and you're a good person, you're probably going to be successful. I think if you try and force it, that it just can become counterproductive. So I like to think I have an efficient system and setup. There's not been a whole lot groundbreaking. I think just good old-fashioned hard work.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too, and follow that same philosophy in my personal life. How important is having a support system, both personally and professionally, would you say, when facing the challenges of entrepreneurship? Can you share how your family and team at Dunwoody Dental Care play a role in your journey?
Dentistry, as many know, can be a little bit of a lonely profession. You're sometimes the only provider or doctor or dentist or whatever in your little world there. And other than conferences once a year, you may not be able to really bounce things off one another. I've found a lot of solace in my family and friends. Luckily, my wife being in healthcare, we can kind of have venting sessions around the dinner table.
Yeah.
Almost 12 years into marriage. It has to be something pretty dramatic during the day for us to even mention it nowadays. But
I bet.
No, they're huge. And I wouldn't be anywhere without my friends and family, especially my wife. She's seen the struggles in the beginning of a transition, and there were many. But I feel like we've gotten to such a good point with each other. But also, there's a lot of good Facebook groups out there, and that may sound small, but there's a few that just business owners will bounce ideas off each other, and you see a comment come up, and you're like, man, I was dealing with that exact same thing, and then all of a sudden you got a comment of like 20 different solutions,
Yeah,
that's nice to sometimes see, wow, someone else is going through that too, and I've really enjoyed that.
absolutely. A lot of other doctors we've had on the show speak about mentorship and how that has just been invaluable to them. Do you have anyone that you've been a mentor to or had a mentor?
Yeah, mentor and mentee, both ways. And, you kind of learn sometimes how far you've come if you're mentoring someone else. It's great. Obviously, my family, my uncle, that's been good to bounce ideas off of him. And we're not at all the exact same, but just having someone that you can easily pick their brain. But even in my community, almost weekly, I'm sitting down with a dentist or specialist in the area, and that's super helpful.
Yeah. And, as you continue to grow your practice, what future challenges do you anticipate, and how do you plan to tackle them using your problem-solving skills you've mentioned?
With growth and overall repetitions, I think the biggest challenge for me personally is just not getting burnout,
Yeah.
managing my own personal bandwidth and knowing what I can say yes to and still love what I do. And I think that's a good place to be, because I'd rather definitely be there than twiddling my thumbs. But you have to realize too that the whole world's not confined to Dunwoody Dental Care. I mean, I love my family. I love traveling. I love restaurants. I love all those things. And the good thing about dentistry is it allows me to enjoy those things. But I think if you're not organized, you don't learn to delegate or manage your time, then ownership can definitely suck up some of those things.
Yeah. How do you know when you've said yes to too much? What's like your key factor that you're like, okay, yep, that was a mistake?
Mine is my tossing and turning at night.
Okay. Yeah.
It's if I'm waking up between 12 and 1 a.m. thinking about things and can't turn the brain off, that's whenever I'm into overdrive.
Okay. That's a good indicator, I think. Lastly, what's the one thing you've learned in your last 2 years of ownership that may help those listening today?
I think if you're an associate and you're considering ownership, it's a great path, and I would never do it any other way. It's definitely, I feel like, the way to be, but you definitely have to be fully committed. Ownership shouldn't be taken lightly. And you know what? It's not for everyone, and I realize that. But if you expect, there are going to be a lot of problems, there are going to be those to-dos, there are going to be those crises that come at you. But you got to realize, you set the tone for the office and how you respond. I try and be as organized as I can, but you have to reinforce those policies, reinforce those systems to keep yourself sane. I want to just make sure that I stay living in the moment, enjoying the day, and enjoy the hard work.
Yeah, great words to live by. Dr. Taylor, we appreciate you joining us today and taking the time to help your fellow entrepreneurs by sharing your story on how you navigate challenges within your practice. And on behalf of the small business community, I thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
Thanks for joining us. The path to owning a business is a nuanced journey. We hope you discovered something in this episode that eases your path to success. If so, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Have a topic you'd like discussed in a future episode? Drop us a line in the comments section or send us a message on social media. If you're ready to take control of your future and start building your legacy, be sure to visit getprovide.com. You can view our resources page for more helpful tools, learn how our all-in-one financial and banking solution can help you on your path to business ownership, and pre-qualify for financing in under 2 minutes with no impact on your credit score. The path to owning it is brought to you by the team at Provide, with support from Slide 9 Agency. And it's produced by PodCamp Media, branded podcast production for businesses. PodCampMedia.com. Producer Dusty Weiss, editor Emily Kasinger. For Provide, I'm Corey Brown. Thanks for making us part of your journey.
Provide is a division of Fifth Third Bank, National Association. All opinions expressed by the participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Provide, its affiliates, or Fifth Third Bank. The participants' opinions are based on information they consider reliable, but neither Provide, its affiliates, nor Fifth Third Bank warrant its completeness or accuracy and should not be relied upon as such. This content is for informational purposes and does not constitute the rendering of legal, accounting, tax, or investment advice or other professional services by Provide or any of its affiliates. Please consult with appropriate professionals related to your individual circumstances. All lending is subject to review and approval.